Hello, Gemini. We're going to do something a little bit different today. We're going to do a tower reading. And this is more of a guidance reading, something really interesting. Before we begin, now that I am more comfortable doing the readings and have been with everybody for a little bit, I just wanted to kind of talk with everybody about what my channel is and is not. I am not a reader who really is equipped to do soulmate readings, video after video. My gift just does not work that way. There are some readers that do, and if that's what you need, you are absolutely entitled to that. And I think there are so many wonderful light workers out there, and they are all meant for a purpose, and they are all meant to serve different people. But my gift is really primarily meant to serve people who are in transition, and I'm specifying this now in some of the videos. You may need me once, you may need me 100 times, but that is who I am meant to serve. If you are really the nurturer of your household, if you carry a lot of weight, or if you are, if you're 16 or you're 60, and you need to get to that next place in life, and you just don't have that extra bit of information, that's who I'm here for. And everybody is welcome here, but that's really who I am meant to serve. People who just, they need to get to that next place in life. So that being said, this reading will be for Gemini. And this is really I think a really good spread for that kind of thing. So Gemini, let's pull some cards for you and see what comes up. So Gemini, this is the first card. This is the Crown card, and this talks about what is no longer true for you. So you do have the Lovers here, but this can be about several things. This could be about the nature of your relationship, how you want this to look, whether you're married or single. This could be about the nature of your relationships. You may, because based on the other cards that are here, I think you want the perspective of these relationships to change, and and some of the dynamics of your relationships to change. So, you know, just give me one moment, Gemini. I feel like intuitively for you there's some, I'm getting the word cloudiness. I think there's some a little bit of muddiness around how the other person feels. Maybe the communication isn't that great. You may be feeling some insecurity right now about if they feel the same way, or if their feelings are as strong. This can even happen in a long-term situation. You're just not feeling like they have you. Does that make sense, Gemini? You know, sometimes people get complacent in long-term relationships, and they're just not doing those same things day to day to make you feel secure. You know, as the seasons go by, we're just not feeling the way we used to. So, you know, I think what's going on for you is the way you view relationships, Gemini, is not the same as it once was. So your next card talks about, you know, what wakes you up. And this is kind of a funny card because it can be one of two things. This can be what makes you feel awake and alive, or it can be what wakes you up out of a situation from sort of being stagnant. You know, and we do have the Knight of Swords here. So this can be you being sort of receiving a communication that cuts you out of a situation, or you know, leaves you feeling isolated, or but I think in this case, I think you, what I'm feeling from this card is that you sort of instigated this communication. I think it's you seeking something out and then getting the answer you wanted. Sometimes in situations or in relationships, it's interesting because we will get into relationships where we will meet up with someone. They can be good at first, or they seem fine. Now, I'm not saying the person that you are around, Gemini, is not okay. But if we have any unresolved issues, we will sabotage a relationship until it looks like the relationship that we are comfortable with. So listen to what I said, Gemini. We will sabotage that relationship until it is the relationship that we are comfortable with, because that's where we're comfortable, with chaos, chaos, chaos. And then we turn that person into the person we're comfortable with. Then we drive them off, or you know, they cut into those wounds, and then we're comfortable again. Does that make sense? You know, I think there's some driving communication happening that comes in, but I get the feeling that you drove this communication somehow. The next card is about, you know, what tricks the material world can play on you, Gemini. And I think, again, it's this sort of bit right now about some misguided ideas or communication coming in, but I think they are connected to some old insecurities. And I think when communication comes in, what we need to do is sort out, is this factual, or is it anything that plays on my insecurities? Because I think some of you have a good person and something is getting tangled up. You know, I think some of you have this and it's getting tangled up. You know, when it comes through the sort of earthly ear, as it were, it's becoming this. You know, it's a divine communication getting mixed up. So, you know, it's a sort of trick of the mind. The next card we have talks about what beliefs you need to release. And I think there's an idea here of you being sort of tricked all the time. You know, I'm too nice, and if I'm too nice to people, they'll get something over on me. You know, because normally, again, in the upright, this is a card of charity and love and extension, but I think, Gemini, for you right now, you're feeling this way. You're feeling like if I open myself up, if I'm vulnerable, people will get in there and I'll be tricked somehow. I think you need to let that go. You know, if I think instead of thinking about, will anyone come in here and trick me, a better idea would be to think about, how can I maybe build up my radar a little bit so that I can sort of distinguish maybe the people who are not so great, and I'm not talking about being defensive so that you can't be nice to anybody, but those people give off signals. People that don't have the best intentions, they give off signals very early, and maybe you don't have those skills yet, so maybe think about building up those skills instead of saying, well, people are out to trick me and people are out to get me. Okay? So we need to get rid of this belief that people are out to get you or trick you. New possibilities forming. You know, the Two of Cups can talk about, this can be business, this can be negotiations or an exchanging of ideas. In partnership, this can be the same, but again, we're not here. The card is coming up this way. So, you know, you could be in a position, this could be a spread where you may want to let a lot of old people go, a lot of old connections go, but what we don't want to do, Gemini, is put you in a position where you're so cut off where you won't let anything new in. So I think you're walking a fine line right now of cutting certain things off, which is great. Cutting toxicity out is great. Cutting the right people out is great. But just, we want to be careful that we're not cutting having you so cut off and isolated that you're not letting anything in. So the possibilities of you being able to draw healthy boundaries, that's fantastic. That'll be fantastic for you. So healthy boundaries, the possibility of you being able to learn healthy new boundaries, really great. How can you open yourself up to divine inspiration? And I've talked about this in some of the other readings. So divine inspiration is not the same thing as regular inspiration. It's not you being inspired on the piano or inspired for a play. This is divine inspiration. With this card coming up upside down, if you have a yes or no question, it's a no. But these talk about firm decisions, being firm in your communications, and I think, again, keeping people out of your circle that are not where you are right now in terms of spiritual development. I think this would be very important for you. Keeping your communications short, really continuing to nurture yourself spiritually. Continue to read those books, continue to watch those videos, continue to do those things that are feeding you. And even if you're feeling like a little behind in that journey, that's fine. You can continue to pick that up. What gets rid of what you don't need? So we see the Tower card coming up. The Tower card can talk about things that were never built on a good foundation collapsing. I think letting those things go that were never really good to start with, whether that be relationships, projects, business ventures. I've said this before, I think a lot of times we're intensely hesitant to let things go. And I have likened it to a game of poker. A lot of people, they just won't fold their hand because they say, I'm all in, I've already invested the money, I already have the... A bad hand is a bad hand. Regardless of how much time you've put in, even if it's a relationship, it will never work if it's not meant to work. It's a simple piece of advice, but it's true. And there's a very strange thing in modern day times where, you keep working at something, you keep working at something, you keep working at something. And that is good to a point. I don't believe you should just give up on someone or a relationship. But there are some people and some things and some projects where you just can't build on it. You can't go into a swamp and build a house. You can't build a house with rotten wood and expect that it will stand. So, what gets rid of, what you don't need, you having the capacity to see that it's no longer working and letting it go. You have to be able to see clearly and say, this is no longer working, and let it go. Or at least let it run its course without controlling it. talking about the risk you should take. So we have the Hanged Man, but it's in reverse. So typically this might talk about changing your perspective. Again, if it was this way, but it's this way. So my feeling about this card for you, Gemini, right now is, one moment, Gemini. There's something coming through about it. My feeling for you for this card is changing it's funny the way it's being said to me. Changing your perspective about being right. Changing your perspective about not changing your mind. How can I translate that? So this would be about not changing your mind about what you know to be true. Okay. This would be, Gemini, this would be not changing your perspective when you know in your heart certain things are true. So if you're in a situation where, let's just say, you're dealing with someone and you absolutely know for sure that they are acting in a way that is not fair, but they are really trying to gaslight you and tell you that it's basically standing your ground. Standing your ground, even though it may be 12 against 1, 5 against 1. So it's going to be a bit of a risk for you to stand up to a group. Is what I'm seeing. You're going to have to really believe in yourself. And it's going to be a risk for you to not back down, because it's going to be one against the many with this card. And I don't know what that means because it's going to feel overwhelming at one point. So you're going to have to stand up to either a very strong personality, someone that feels like they overwhelm you, or this person may have more than one person on their side where they're really going to try to push you back into a corner. So the risk you need to take is to really stand your ground and keep your perspective exactly the way it has been. Okay, Gemini, so that is your tower reading. Thank you for sitting with me for a while. Take care now.